Hey folks, Mark Levin here. Now, before we dive into today's episode, I want to talk about something truly valuable, protecting your financial future with gold. It's called diversification. Now, for that, I only trust Advantage Gold. They're the real deal with 5-star service and a sterling reputation. So give them a call today. Call Advantage Gold at 800-900-8000. Tell them Mark Levin sent you. Trust me, you'll thank yourself in the future. Now let's get to the show. Results may vary. Consult with your financial professional.
He's here. He's here. Now, broadcasting from the underground command post, deep in the bowels of a hidden bunker, somewhere under the brick and steel of a nondescript building, we've once again made contact with our leader, Mark Levin.
Mark Levin here. Our number, 877-381-3811, 877-381-3811. Now, this whole debate thing is actually quite ridiculous. I have a book on my shelf that is the word-for-word text of the Lincoln-Douglas debates, where there were no moderators whatsoever, let alone individuals claiming to be journalists who support one side over another. We've reached a point in our country where we spend a week talking about what's going to happen at the debate, positioning, projecting. I think I'm the only one who's been telling you that the truth is that this debate won't change Biden, won't change Trump. It'll change, perhaps, perceptions. And that's pretty much what the media deal with, perceptions. Perceptions about Biden and Trump. Already, they've created a negative perception of Trump for the debate, which Trump will show up. The angry, out of control Trump, they say, or the steely controlled Trump. They don't ask which Biden will show up, do they? I am not a conspiracy theorist. I never have been. But there's no question in my mind, and there's no question in the mind of the really solid medical individuals that I've talked to, that Joe Biden will, in fact, be stimulated with a variety of drugs that are legal. That is, choose one among many. And everybody knows it, which is why he will not agree to a drug test. Which is why they've never released the drugs that he's taking. They never have. We have some doctor who goes on and says he's in great shape. Yet we have a report in the Wall Street Journal on the news section that's no friend of his, that is no friend of Trump's, who points out what people are saying about Biden. We have the special counsel talks about what he saw with Biden. And, of course, we don't even need them. You and I see it. It's not an occasional flub or shuffle or fall or headbang. It's constant. His staff is protecting him. His wife is protecting him. The media are protecting him. Everything from walking to and fro from a helicopter to yanking him off the stage before he can answer any questions. And so they're building up this day. Biden didn't offer this without knowing what he's going to do about it. He'll be pumped up. He's meeting with 16 people. And I said last night, and I noticed this was repeated by somebody on Fox this evening, Mr. Producer, that if he spent as much time in debate prep, if he spent as much time on the issues that matter in this country, whether it's the border, the economy, the wars overseas, learned as much, focused as much, maybe we wouldn't be in this sort of trouble. But he doesn't. That must have been a great point. Somebody parroted it today. It's okay. But it's important. So what will Biden do? I don't know. What will President Trump do? I don't know. And when you're in the middle of combat with 400 million people walking, you have to be flexible enough to respond to something that's coming out of left field. And, of course, the problem will be the moderators. They have the kind of control I don't remember any moderator ever having, the ability to shut off a mic, the ability to insist that there's decorum. What does that mean? And you know all about Jake Tapper and Dana Bash, how they are radical leftist Democrats who support Hamas, in my opinion, and who've always hated Trump and have referred to him, if not directly, indirectly, as Hitler. That's pretty sick. There's a reason why Biden asked for CNN and ABC, and there's a reason why he got Tapper and Dana Bash. Because they're in the tank. I wouldn't be surprised if information was already shared. I'm not kidding. Biden is a sleazeball. Biden will do anything for power and anything to hold on to power. It doesn't matter to him. Open borders with sex slavery, labor slavery, children sold into pornography, women sold into sex. You see what's happening to our citizens, the horrendous murder of several of them, more than we even know. And Biden also knows that the media will cover for him. MSNBC, CNN, New York Times, Washington Post, all the rest of it. So there really is no point to this debate because we know what and who Biden is. We know what and who Trump is, except to create the media narrative. Mr. Producer, why should it come down to 90 minutes? We've experienced Joe Biden for 3.5 years, have we not? Is something going to change our minds? But Mark, what about the people on the High Wire Act who aren't sure what they want to do? Well, what about them? So this performance is for them? It's like the lead up to the State of the Union. It goes on and on and on. Now, that's not to say it won't have an impact. I'm sure it will, because a lot of people will watch, and it's been hyped. And we've got all kinds of people in Atlanta, and all kinds of people going to talk about what's going to happen in Atlanta, and all kinds of people talking about the stage, what it looks like, who's doing this, who's doing that. That's hype. That's hype. But it's not a fair fight to have two radical, left-wing, Democrat, Trump-hating phony hosts as moderators, to have no audience, to have no give and take, where these in-the-tank Bidenites can press a button and cut off Trump's mic? If they're so worried about Trump interrupting, they think it's a bad look. Why don't they let him do it? Biden is also a pathological liar. I did an entire show on that on Fox a couple of weekends ago. It's a plagiarist. It's constant. Today he's a liar. Yesterday he was. When he was in law school, he's a plagiarist and a liar. It's what he is. He won't be called out for his lies. This isn't so much a debate as it is a performance that the media hype for their own ratings, and because they're going to try and influence this event. CNN takes a war in the Middle East between the good guys, Israel, and the evil guys, Hamas, and turns Israel into the evil guy and Hamas into the good guys. What do you think they're going to do in a debate? Excuse me, cholera. It's really amazing that the future of the country is dependent on 90 minutes. Now, that's not to say we're not going to talk about it. How can you not? Everybody else is going to, and of course it'll be in the body politic. It'll be in the stream, the bloodstream of the system. But I'm saying to you, seriously, is there anything Biden can do that will convince you to vote for Biden, Mr. Producer? No. And I ask you folks, is there anything Trump can do that would persuade you not to vote for him? Not me. Not me. Biden needs this debate more than anybody. And truly, I just sit here and I wonder to myself, here's a man who in the last debate, right before the election, pointed at Donald Trump, looked into the camera to the American people. When Donald Trump brought up the Hunter laptop and he attacked Donald Trump, he said that experts in national security had signed a letter saying that this was a Russian scheme, a Russian plot. And he got away with that well after the election, when it is determined, almost by accident, that the whole thing was a Joe Biden campaign plant. And then he knew it, and then he cites it during the course of the campaign. And you're supposed to trust this guy. I suspect, if we're going to get into this, that Joe Biden wanted to go first, as I said last night, because he wants to set the stage for the entire debate. And I suspect Joe Biden will throw a lot of stuff against the wall. Statistics, legislation, attacks on Trump, his character, his conviction, all up front for several reasons. Number one, to control the course of the debate by throwing it all out there. Number two, trying to put Trump on defense, on his heels. Number three, trying to annoy the ex-president with outrageous statements. And number four, making it difficult to respond to each one when you have a machine gun level of issues that you're throwing out there. What would I do? I would point out that you've thrown about a dozen issues for the purpose of trying to monopolize this debate and control where this debate goes. Perhaps during the course of the debate I can address each one, but let me address a few. And I would, and then I would turn the tables on him. And I would go through a whole bunch of statistics and facts and policies of his that fail. Biden will also talk about legislation, because that's what bureaucrats who've been in Washington a half a century do. It's not about legislation. It's about action. You don't get a lollipop because there's been legislation. It's about action. There was legislation to create all these EV charging sites. $7 billion, we have 7 sites. That's $1 billion a site. $42.5 billion to increase internet access all over the country. Not one home has been hooked up. Not one, for $42.5 billion. These are important facts that should be thrown at Biden, in my view. But once again, it doesn't change anything, except perceptions. And I guess that's what it's all about now. I guess the bad guys, the propagandists, the media won in this respect. As I've told you before, pseudo events. pseudo events. Game playing. You don't need to sit down with 16 people to prepare for a debate. Maybe a couple of people 3 or 4 days before the debate. But a president takes off an entire week. I'll tell you one thing, Mr. Producer. You know what Biden taking off an entire week tells me? We don't need him for the country to run. Oh, that'll be repeated tomorrow, I'm sure. We don't need Biden for the country to run because for 7 days, a full week, he's been holed up at Camp David. Away from Washington. I'll be right back.
Mark Levin.
Folks, the war on our justice system, the vicious assault on President Trump, has sent our nation into uncharted waters. And trust me when I say things are going to get worse before they get better. I truly believe that. The political turmoil and uncertainty that lie ahead could have severe consequences for our economy and financial markets. But in times of crisis, there's always opportunity. And right now, I see that opportunity in diversification with gold and silver. As these tensions rise and the dollar's future becomes increasingly uncertain, gold has the potential to go even higher. That's why I trust Advantage Gold. They're experts at helping Americans take steps to help safeguard their wealth with precious metals. Call them right now. 800-900-8000. Don't wait. Get their free 2024 gold and silver kit, plus a special Mark Levin discount worth up to $1,300 if you qualify. The future may be unpredictable, but your financial security doesn't have to be. So call Advantage Gold right now. 800-900-8000. There's no risk. There's no pressure. That's 800-900-8000. Get your special Mark Levin discount worth up to $1,300 for qualified customers today. Performance may vary. You should always consult your financial and tax professional. Had a serious media that was seriously interested in getting to the bottom of some of these things. It would ask questions like, I don't know why, Mr. Producer, the headphones are not really coming through very strongly here. Anyway, they'd ask questions like, President Biden, several federal courts, including the Supreme Court, have struck down a number of your executive orders and regulations, arguing that you're seizing authority that belongs to Congress. So on what basis, what authority are you claiming to issue these executive orders? Student loans, you had the Supreme Court turned you down, you cobbled together another program to get around them. You have two federal judges that have just said no to that in a significant way. Same with your vaccine mandate, same with your freezing of rent prices imposed on landlords. You don't have authority to do that. You're the federal president. It's the federal government. But they won't ask that because they don't care about separation of powers. It's something that President Trump would have to ask. But in terms of really the nature of the country, on what authority did you issue all these executive orders to open the border? They're not going to look at the existing immigration laws. They're lazy, and they don't care. And what Biden did is he basically rewrote our immigration policies through executive orders, defied existing federal law that's been in place for half a century and updated since. They're going to let him talk about he's for democracy when they should be questioning him about his actions. I'll be right back. My fellow Americans, the phony conviction of Donald Trump has sent a clear message. Our country is in deep trouble. Our rule of law is under attack, and the integrity of our elections may well be in jeopardy. In times of political chaos like this, it's crucial to protect your wealth and secure your financial future. That's where my good friends at Advantage Gold come in. Please call them now. 800-900-8000. Get their free 2024 gold and silver kit to help protect your money against times like these with physical precious metals. Plus, tell them I sent you, and they'll give you a special Mark Levin discount worth up to $1,300 if you qualify. No one can predict the future, but you can prepare for it. Call Advantage Gold today. 800-900-8000. Get your free gold and silver kit right now. Plus, Mark Levin discount worth up to $1,300 for qualified customers today. 800-900-8000. Give it a try. Performance may vary. You should always consult your financial and tax professionals.
Nobody says it better than Mark Levin.
I'll go with what Mark Levin said, because nobody could say it better.
Call in now at 877-381-3811.
You know, I was thinking Joe Biden and President Trump's critics like to talk about him as an isolationist or as somebody who doesn't engage in foreign affairs. And this lie has gained so much credibility because of the media and the Democrat Party that it really does need to be addressed. It was Donald Trump who took out Soleimani. It was Donald Trump who took out Baghdadi. It was Donald Trump who bombed Syria when it was gassing its people. It was Donald Trump who effectively strangled Iran economically, almost leading to the collapse of Iran, but for Biden giving the head Islamist Nazi there in Tehran mouth-to-mouth resuscitation, if you will. It was Donald Trump who told Germany to cut off the gasoline supplies to Russia on the pipeline. It was Donald Trump who told Europe, you need to spend more of your money, not just on socialist fantasies, but on your own defense, to defend Europe, to defend your countries. That's not abandoning NATO. That's supporting NATO and telling NATO it needs to support itself. It was Donald Trump who built up the military after Obama, and it's Donald Trump who's going to have to build it up again. Communist China was in a box, and they didn't move. Fascistic Russia, Putin was in a box, and he didn't move. The Taliban didn't fire a shot, a lethal shot, at an American soldier in a year and a half. And to top it all off, you had multiple peace agreements signed between Arab countries and Israel, with more to come, like Saudi Arabia. At the White House, the signing took place, one country after another. Diplomatic ties were formed. The evil in the Middle East was Iran and its surrogates. Look what's happened all over the world. Joe Biden is not, quote unquote, an internationalist. He's not, quote unquote, even a globalist. He's a one-man wrecking ball. And his Secretary of State is an ideological, radical left-wing kook. Where there was peace, there's now war. Where there was once opportunity, there's now a dead end. The idea that Donald Trump is an isolationist is preposterous. What he cannot stand is what he calls these endless wars. Now, what does he mean by them? He means, for instance, with Ukraine. Here we've given Ukraine tens of billions of dollars to fight a defensive war. You can't win a defensive war against Russia or China or Iran or North Korea. They're trying to defeat you. They're trying to take your territory. They're trying to expand their power. He slow-walked weapons to Ukraine. And this is what Netanyahu's well aware of. He'll do the same thing to us. And then he'll demand that we sign any deal, we sign any agreement so he could talk about peace in our time. When it comes to foreign policy, Donald Trump has been very responsible. He knows how to treat an ally. Look how he treated Israel. Look how he treated our European allies. Quite well. An isolationist. He didn't close any of our bases, any of our main bases anyway. Crucial bases in Europe. He didn't do that. He didn't cut our weapons programs. He expanded them. He didn't eliminate a military service, an arm of the military. He created a new one, and he's proud of it. The Space Force. Because he could see that under the Air Force, it wasn't going to get too far. For bureaucratic reasons in the Pentagon. So he creates a new military wing, Space Force, much needed. He builds up the United States military. He creates peace in the Middle East, where there was once war, and there's war again. Russia dare not invade Ukraine or anybody else for that matter. China was not making the kind of provocative actions it is now, which are multiple provocative actions in our hemisphere. The various disputes with Japan, the Philippines, even Vietnam, threatening Australia over navigable waters and territory and islands. Nobody's perfect. No president's perfect, but some are greater than others. Some are better than others. Joe Biden doesn't learn. Joe Biden said he was going to save our country from Reagan, the Reagan doctrine. Reagan, in his diary, as I pointed out, called him a demagogue. Joe Biden's always going to save somebody. Reagan. He's going to save us from Menachem Begin. He's going to save us from Bob Bork and Clarence Thomas and a whole host of brilliant people nominated for judgeships. He's going to save us from Donald Trump. He's going to save us from the Bush family. He's the great Don Quixote. There he is. He's going to save everything for democracy while he's burning it down. These are the facts. They don't change as a result of some debate. They don't change as a result of a debate. I mean, foreign policy. They try and make it look like Trump doesn't engage in foreign policy. Trump's diplomacy, followed up by the iron fist, has been superb. It's reminiscent of Reagan's. That's the truth. Everybody's scratching their head on Biden's foreign policy. Everybody. Why are we funding Iran? Why are we backdoor funding UNRWA? Why are we providing hundreds of millions of dollars to the PLO, which is a terrorist organization, which, of course, Tapper and Bash and the other reprobates don't even report about in Judea and Samaria? Why are we funding people who hate us? And why have we been doing it for decade after decade after decade? What have we gotten out of the Palestinians? Peace? Friendship? They hate us. Look at their Nimrods in the street here in the United States. They're bringing their culture, their mindset to our country, so Jews aren't even safe at their own synagogue in Los Angeles. But it's not just Jews, although it is Jews. It's Christians. It's Americans. It's anybody who gets into their way. Heavily funded by elements within our own country. And I'm going to dig into this further after this week with a friend of ours from the Heritage Foundation. He doesn't know it yet, but we will. But this is not engagement. This is not international. It's not even globalism. This is insanity, followed by suicide. 69 Democrats wrote a letter to the administration, a setup letter, complaining led into the country. I think of the last year or so. I thought to myself, we let 60,000 Palestinians into the country, Mr. Producer? Where did they come from? The peaceful parts of Palestinian rule, and where would that be? Now, I brought this up. It's a big issue as far as I'm concerned. And the only other person I know who's bringing up the importation of Islamists into this country, and there may be many, I just can't hear them all, is our friend Stephen Miller. He's brought this up over at Breitbart, one of the great sites. And he says here, give me a second, Neil Monroe, also a good man. The street attacks on Jews in the United States are entwined with Joe Biden's easy migration policy, says Stephen Miller, who served as a senior immigration deputy in President Trump's administration. He said Biden's migration policy in action, he wrote about. And what did he show? The mass attack on a Jewish woman and other Jews trying to go to synagogue. He said, this is Biden's migration policy. Attacking and chasing Jews at a synagogue. He said, you canceled the travel ban. You opened the door to mass jihadist migration. Speaking to Biden, you canceled the travel ban. The connection between Islamic and Arab migration and the anti-Semitic attacks has been widely recognized. Quote, children of refugees from Muslim nations organized many of the demonstrations. Evidence of a political awakening among a new generation of young Americans who are helping to shape U.S. public opinion in support of a ceasefire in the Middle East, wrote the Washington Post on Christmas Day 2023. That's right. Supporters of migration have been prominent in the anti-Israel protests after the October 7 massacre of Jews. The alliance is based on the intersectional or woke claim that minority groups share common interests. Because of their minority status, this logic helps to explain why some members of racial and sexual minority groups are allying themselves with an Islamic force that would prefer to destroy them. More bluntly put, it's the Marxist Islamist axis. That's what it is. In Washington, for example, Gustavo Torres, the leader of the La Casa, led a November 6th protest against Israel and issued a statement that tied pro-immigration advocacy to anti-Israel actions. In May, another pro-immigration group, United We Dream, posted anti-Israel tweets. Similarly, more than 130 progressive-funded, a.k.a. Marxist-funded, pro-immigration, a.k.a. pro-illegal aliens groups declared their determination to fight back against the cruelty of detention, deportation, and criminalization. These are the same values that guide our continued calls for an end to genocide being committed by Israel against Palestinians. The flagrant way and the ubiquitous way in which these blood libels are spoken and spread, I blame on Biden. Every now and then, he squeals out an objection or somebody writes a statement for him. But his administration has not put its foot down, not even in the least. They're importing aliens into this country who hate us, who have nothing in common with our culture, and who are not required to be acculturated, or that is assimilated into our system. The partial merger of the pro-immigration and anti-Israel movements creates a deep problem for the Democrats, partly because it threatens their expected support. No, it's a deep problem for America. Because the Jewish population is a very, very small percentage of the population overall. And through birth and immigration, the Islamist population, notice I don't say Muslim, the Islamist population, it will significantly outnumber the Jewish population. Sam Baydun, a Wayne County commissioner in Dearborn, Michigan, has been glued to Al Jazeera for weeks to absorb news from the war in Israel and Gaza. Mr. Baydun, a Democrat who is Lebanese-American, has watched with fury as Israeli airstrikes have caused the deaths of many civilians. This is the New York Times. Including children, following the deadly attack by Hamas on Israel on October 7 that killed many. I'm quoting the New York Times. He saw President Biden visit Israel and pledge full-throated American support. And he's thinking ahead to the presidential election in 2024, a contest that could hinge on a handful of states, including Michigan, whose Muslim and Arab American voters turned out decisively for Mr. Biden 3 years ago. How can I tell somebody who's watching these atrocities on live TV today to vote for President Biden? The pulse of the community is overwhelmingly not supportive of Biden now. They feel betrayed. Betrayed? Yeah. That's right. Biden is supposed to back Hamas. And he does in many ways. Lots of solidarity with Palestine at the Puerto Rican Day Parade. In New York, there's another report. Well, so you see. And so when you import people from this region, you're importing American hatred and Jew hatred. Not everybody, Mark. I didn't say everybody, but overwhelmingly that's the case. Survey by Palestinian organizations, surveys by Arab organizations have made it abundantly clear that the population of the Palestinians throughout the world support terrorism, the extermination of the Jews, and hate America. That's a fact. I'll be right back.
Mark Levin.
The war against Donald Trump, which is ongoing, has turned our legal and political system into a nightmare. With the 2024 elections on the horizon, we could be facing a period of unprecedented instability and uncertainty. But you can protect and grow your wealth by investing in gold and silver. Precious metals have always served as a safe haven during times of political and economic turmoil. And with the expert guidance of my good friends at Advantage Gold, you can navigate this insane climate with confidence. Call Advantage Gold right now. 800-900-8000. They'll send you a free 2024 gold and silver kit that tells you how to help keep your money safe when things are bad. Plus, tell them I sent you, and they'll give you a special Mark Levin discount worth up to $1,300 if you qualify. Call Advantage Gold, 800-900-8000. Get your special Mark Levin discount worth up to $1,300 for qualified customers. That's 800-900-8000. Performance may vary. You should always consult your financial and tax professional. Watching the discussion during the break, and it's an amazing thing how they're going after Trump on this documents case at all. When the same Department of Justice gave a pass to Hillary Clinton, when the same Department of Justice gave a pass to Joe Biden, and now the same Department of Justice is giving a wet kiss to Julian Assange. He pleads guilty to a felony. And Mr. Producer, the time served as his penalty. So he'll walk a free man. That is the Biden administration doing that. The same Biden administration that's going after Donald Trump. And I want people to remember Julian Assange printed information that revealed the names of our operatives that seriously harmed our national security, battlefield decisions. And the person who leaked that, Chelsea Manning, received a pardon from Obama. So Chelsea Manning gets a pardon from Obama. Julian Assange gets a sweetheart deal from Biden. Joe Biden gets a sweetheart deal from Merrick Garland. And Hillary Clinton gets a sweetheart deal from the Department of Justice. And they go after Donald Trump. And no, I'm no fan of Julian Assange. I'm a fan of the United States military. What they did to President Trump, that phony courtroom in Manhattan, is a stain on the fabric of our society. It's an unconstitutional disgrace. Of course, the Democrats are trying to exploit this politically. Biden will bring it up during the campaign. He got what he wanted. Pretends his fingerprints aren't all over it, but his fingerprints are all over it, just like a young girl where he's sniffing their hair. We'll be right back. This segment of the podcast is exclusively sponsored by Pure Talk. Pure Talk offers great coverage and can save your family money on your wireless bill every single month. Go to puretalk.com to find the plan that's right for you. Thank you again for listening, and thank you so much for this sponsorship, Pure Talk.
He's here. He's here. Now, broadcasting from the underground command post, deep in the bowels of a hidden bunker, somewhere under the brick and steel of a nondescript building, we've once again made contact with our leader, Mark Levin.
Hello, America. Mark Levin here. Our number, 877 381-3811, 877-381-3811. Well, I spoke about Jocelyn Nungare last evening, the 12-year-old, who was brutalized by two Biden illegal immigrants. That's right. That's right. He has to be held accountable for what he's done. The New York Post has stayed on this, in particular, Jean-Pierre. Little Jocelyn Nungare fought back against her attackers after she was lured under a Houston bridge and assaulted for 2 hours. What they're trying to say is raped for 2 hours, leaving scratch and bite marks on one of the illegal migrants who is accused of killing her. Prosecutors have revealed today. Johan Jose Martinez Rangel, 21, still had the marks Jocelyn left on him when he was arrested, Assistant DA Megan Long said in a Harris County court. This is Houston. Martinez Rangel's alleged accomplice, Franklin Jose Pena Ramos, 26, told cops he tried to convince Martinez Rangel to stop, but he allegedly refused and climbed on top of the girl and strangled her, according to Long. However, Martinez Rangel allegedly responded that he had to finish what he started as he covered her mouth. The chilling details came as Harris County DA Judge Josh Hill set a $10 million bail for Martinez Rangel and labeled him a likely flight risk. The judge said, "I've seen individuals go into ICE custody, go through deportation and removal process where they've been ordered to be removed, and that the feds have deported or removed those individuals. The Harris County criminal charge is still pending. And it puts us in the position where those charges would never be answered." But the judge is trying to say Biden pushes these people out of harm's way so fast. This judge says not so fast. Prosecutors said Martinez Rangel, who appeared in court wearing a yellow jumpsuit and surrounded by several bailiffs, shaved his beard in an attempt to alter his appearance after the horrific attack. Jocelyn's family, including her mother Alexis, was in court for the appearance. One family member was later escorted out of the courtroom after yelling at Martinez Rangel through tears. Now here's the long, horrendous history as the New York Post is reporting on poor Jocelyn's murders. The illegal Venezuelan migrants accused of murdering Jocelyn Nungare in Houston lured the 12-year-old girl under a bridge, where they stripped her naked to the waist and assaulted her for 2 hours. Both Johan Jose Martinez Rangel and Franklin Jose Pena Ramos were seen on surveillance video entering a 7-Eleven with Jocelyn that night, the night she was killed, and before the two walked her to a bridge where her body was later found half naked and strangled. Pena, 26, and Martinez Rangel, 21, allegedly bound Jocelyn's hands behind her back during the brutal assault, then strangled her and dumped her body in the bayou. Department of Homeland Security sources said Pena crossed into El Paso, Texas on May 28th, a month ago. Less than a month ago. He was released soon after his interaction with border agents. He killed this poor little baby within 3 weeks of being here. Jocelyn fought back against her attackers after she was lured under the bridge and assaulted, leaving scratch and bite marks on one of the illegal migrants who was accused of killing her. It's a little 12-year-old. Pena was given an ankle monitor when he was released into the U.S. after being caught at the border in May, according to Homeland Security sources. He cut it off after Jocelyn's body was found. Long said Martinez Rangel, a father of two whose family is not in Texas, admitted to tying the little girl up and throwing her body in the bayou, but claimed he did not kill her. His court appearance follows the bond hearing for Pena, who entered the country just a month before Jocelyn's murder. Martinez Rangel and Pena, got to look at these guys. I would just rip them to shreds. I'm just telling you. On June 16, allegedly lured Jocelyn under a bridge, and you know the rest. Jocelyn's feet were also bound. Her back was covered in cuts. Pena was given an ankle monitor when he was released in the U.S. Ankle monitor. What the hell? Her immigration system is broken. If there was ever a case that demonstrates that, it's this one, said D.A. Kim Ogg during a press conference. Both of these animals were on a surveillance video entering a 7-Eleven with Jocelyn the night she was killed. Jocelyn's family said the 12-year-old snuck out when she was killed. And Jocelyn's mother said that the killers took her daughter on all the opportunities she had ahead of way, obviously. And I'm going to stay on this one because it's driving me crazy. I know there's a lot of stuff going on, but it's driving me crazy. When you have daughters and granddaughters and things like that, this sort of thing, and you start to think about what this little girl, she's skinny, she's petite. She had no idea what she was about to have to deal with. And I watch these Democrats say, this is horrendous, my heart goes out to her and her family. But not all immigrants are this way. What does that have to do with anything? These two immigrants are this way, and they shouldn't have been in the country. And by the way, under Joe Biden's bipartisan legislation, they still would have been in the country if they were within the 2,500 who come here illegally. Actually, it's 4,500 who come here illegally every day, Mr. Producer. They still could have been here. So his bipartisan bill wouldn't have done crap. His bipartisan bill doesn't stop illegal immigrants with criminal records from getting in the country if they're not vetted. It doesn't stop Islamo-Nazis from coming into the country to usurp our law and destroy our country and to destroy Jews. Still's going on. You can't have this kind of illegal immigration. It's that simple. But we do. We do. And just to show you how this will never end under the Democrats, not only do they introduce this phony bill with the help of McConnell and his cohorts, but they don't even talk about this. They don't even talk about this. It's not on their radar. You know, it was Walter Duranty, the chief correspondent in Moscow for 12 years during the reign of Joseph Stalin, who came up with the line, sometimes you have to crack a few eggs to advance a society. You have to crack a few eggs. Why do I use this? Why do I say this? Because you understand, but others need to understand the high tolerance the Democrat Party has for evil, for inhumanity, for suffering. Not theirs, but everybody else's. Whether it's slavery, whether it's the extermination of Ukrainians at the hands of Stalin and his generals. whether it's the New York Times' chief correspondent in Berlin, who wrote lies about Hitler and the Third Reich, and it was tolerated, even though there was internal concern about it. The management tolerated it. Even though the New York Times succeeded in promoting Fidel Castro, a Stalinist communist, in its pages, urging support for him by the United States. Great Democrat, little d. I've read some of the passages that have been written. The New York Times, emblematic of Democrats and Marxists, has a very high tolerance for evil and genocide. And they still do. And the Democrat Party still does, after October 7th in Israel. How many Democrats have gone to the southern border to determine how many women and children are being sold into sex slavery? Maybe there's a handful. Joe Biden talks about cages, Trump separating parents from children. It was Obama who had cages. But how does he know their parents? Rather than sex traffickers of children. He has no idea. Neither do our heroes, our honorable folks on the border. So they have to separate them to make a determination. It's not so simple when they're coming from communist China or Islamo-Nazi Iran or other places where we don't have good information or even communication. So Biden exploits it. This is why I tell you there's nothing Joe Biden can say or do that would stop me from detesting him. Because that's all a stage. It's a stage. What happens on stages? Dancing, singing, plays, acrobats, circuses, and now debates. Okay, have your debate. But nothing that happens on that stage will change the fact that Joe Biden is a horrendous individual. And that seventh granddaughter of his, he's never spoken to her, and neither has Jill. And Mr. Producer, what comes and may come is the way it is in life. But I would talk to her if she were mine, wouldn't you? You better believe it. But Joe Biden and Jill Biden, these are cold people. You need to understand, these are cold-blooded people. Hillary Clinton. Hillary Clinton is the ice woman. She's the ice woman. I'll be right back.
Mark Levin.
Did you know one of the largest U.S. flags in the state of Georgia stands proudly in Pure Talk's parking lot? To honor that flag, Pure Talk is supporting America's Warrior Partnership in their mission to prevent veteran suicide. For our servicemen and women, the transition to civilian life can be very difficult, especially now. Access to housing, employment, and even their earned VA benefits can be very difficult. That's where America Warriors Partnership steps in by providing real support where and when our vets need it most. And you can help this noble cause when you switch to Pure Talk's 5G service and support this great charity. Through Flag Day, they'll match every dollar donated up to $50,000. Choose a wireless company that shares your values and puts you on America's most dependable 5G network for just $20 a month. Go to puretalk.com/Levin. That's puretalk.com/LEVIN to make the switch. That's puretalk.com/Levin for superior cell phone service. That's half the price of Verizon, AT&T, or T-Mobile, and to help Pure Talk with vets in need. So what I'm saying is, America, the Democrat Party is, as I wrote, sort of the Americanized form of Marxism. It's not pure Marxism. It's not doctrinaire Marxism, but it's Marxism. It rejects Americanism. It rejects the Declaration. It rejects the Constitution. You can hear it all the time. Like the fool from MSNBC coming on and saying, can you believe these people believe in natural rights? It's right there in the Declaration of Independence. She doesn't even know what it is. Then she goes on to attack Christian nationalism. These are shibboleths. They don't. These are fortune cookie messages that they think they're smart and they regurgitate. And clearly as can be, Marx writes in the Communist Manifesto, and he had a lot of writings, he and Engels, but this seems to be the most popular one, the Communist Manifesto, that there will be despotism from time to time, until you get to the promised land. And he talks about destroying the society, destroying the values and the principles, destroying the family unit. The person must become with one in the new society. This is why you have these horrendous genocidal episodes. Wherever Marxism has been. Now, the Democrat Party is the American Marxist Party. I don't care if there's a few moderates in it. That's not what I'm talking about. The party itself, the leadership, its identity, all of it. That's what it is. Now, Joe Biden is about one thing. He's power hungry. In fact, the vast majority of the leadership and activists in the Democrat Party are power hungry. They don't believe in power checking power. They believe in their power. This is very important, what I'm trying to explain. Very important. This is a dangerous ideology. So they'll put out statements like what happened on October 7th is horrible, but what happened to Jocelyn, the 12-year-old, is horrendous. My heart goes out to her and her family, but. And then, of course, they'll lie to cover their tracks, which is, look, this is Trump's fault. He told the Republicans not to vote for this fantastic bipartisan legislation, which was the greatest enforcement and security against illegal immigration ever. They'll just lie, because that's what Marxists do, whoever they are, American Marxists or otherwise. Joe Biden stood up on that stage 4 years ago and he lied to you about the laptop. By the way, does this printer have its own life, Mr. Producer? I was trying to print something like a half hour ago. Look, can you hear it? It's starting up. It's like talking to me. You know, it makes more sense than Biden, actually. My point is, the Democrat Party is not a normal lowercase d Democratic Party. So I don't call it a Democratic Party. I call it the Democrat Party. There's nothing democratic about it. There's nothing Republican about it. There's nothing constitutional about it. More on this. I'll be right back. Did you know one of the largest U.S. flags in the state of Georgia stands proudly in Pure Talk's parking lot? To honor that flag, Pure Talk is supporting America's Warrior Partnership in their mission to prevent veteran suicide. For our servicemen and women, the transition to civilian life can be very difficult, especially now. Access to housing, employment, and even their earned VA benefits can be very difficult. That's where America Warriors Partnership steps in by providing real support where and when our vets need it most. And you can help this noble cause when you switch to Pure Talk's 5G service and support this great charity. Through Flag Day, they'll match every dollar donated up to $50,000. Choose a wireless company that shares your values and puts you on America's most dependable 5G network for just $20 a month. Go to puretalk.com/Levin. That's puretalk.com/LEVIN to make the switch. That's puretalk.com/Levin for superior cell phone service. That's half the price of Verizon, AT&T, or T-Mobile, and to help Pure Talk with vets in need.
Mark Levin, the research arm of conservative media. Call in now, 877-381-3811.
Can I just say, as an aside, America, everybody thinks I have such incredible power, don't they, Mr. Producer? Family, friend, acquaintance, doesn't matter. Mark, will you call President Trump and tell him this? Will you call President Trump? If I kept the list of this and I called President Trump and I would be phone buddies. I'd be calling him every day with a list of 3 or 4 things. I personally can't stand it when people are calling me. How about this guest, Mark? Or why don't you have 1 guest rather than 2 guests, Mark? Or why don't you do something this? Or why don't you do something? Why don't you be quiet? I say to these people, or I ignore them. It's not that I don't have ideas or take ideas, but the accumulation of these ideas is just overwhelming, and many of them are bizarre and ridiculous. Some of them are good. But I've got to handle this the way I handle it. I'm one of the few people who doesn't bother President Trump. He very much solicits my input. I consider him a dear friend. He's a brilliant man. He's a decent and kind man, regardless of what you've been told. When my parents passed away, he contacted us. When my brother-in-law was passing away, well, we spoke to him, and he called and spoke to my brother-in-law. When my wife had major back surgery, he called and asked about my wife. He always jokingly says, Mark, we need you. Take care of your health. Take care of your heart. He's a very good man. But he thinks for himself. Do I give him opinions from time to time? Of course I do. But I'm not going to lobby him on behalf of other people or other people's ideas or policies. Because I know from my own position, Mr. Producer, if I start to think somebody's really carrying a ball for somebody else, it's not something I want to hear. Do you know what I mean? I'm not a lobbyist. With any friend, if you want to talk to them, you want to give them advice, you do it. But you don't do it because somebody's prodding you to get something in front of them. I'm not going to do it. And I don't do it. I get the same requests for other major politicians, and I don't do it, and I'm not going to. Just pointing it out. A lot of people are struggling to keep up with everyday bills. A lot of you. Food, gas, even the power bill. I'm in Florida. I was in the Publix today, and I'm looking at the price of things, and Publix is one of the very, very good supermarket chains. But it's not their fault. Most of these supermarket chains are operating on very, very thin margins. A couple of pennies a product. It's the truth. So they're the face of what's going on, but Biden is the reason these things are going on. And the prices are through the roof. I told you before about these Marxists and these Democrats. They really don't give a damn. They're ideologically driven. And you're suffering as a result of this. I find myself, when I go to a restaurant, increasing the amount I tip people. There's one place I go to in Virginia. It's fantastic. And they have a waiter or waitress, and they have a young person who brings the plate of food out, Mr. Producer. That person never gets a tip. I always give them a tip. And they're like shocked. And they're young. And I say, you know, I'm giving you this tip. Why? Because you're a young person and you're working and you want to work. I don't need government to tell me how to redistribute wealth. They always redistribute wealth to wealthy people or to people who don't deserve it, like illegal aliens. If I'm in a position, and I am, to acknowledge somebody who's working hard, young person in particular, but then I go to these places and I see people who are older than I am, Mr. Producer, who are waiting tables and doing these things. And I leave a significant tip. Well, Mark, that's because well, if I'm able to do it, shouldn't I do it? This isn't me saying, look at me. This is me telling you that people who work hard are struggling. Many of you, you're struggling. And it's not by a mistake. It's not by... let me put it to you this way. It's by design. Look, you can't destroy our society without destroying the middle class. The middle class is our society. You have the two ends, the very wealthy and the very poor. But if it's not for working class Americans, union, non-union, and by that I don't mean only people who earn $12 an hour. I mean people who maybe earn a couple $100,000 a year. People who may earn $30,000, $40,000 a year. The fact of the matter is people are struggling. And this is created by government, not the market system. The shortages are created by government. The prices are created by ideologues trying to destroy our energy system and replace it with something that doesn't exist. Industries are affected. The cost of food and items are affected. When you take gasoline, natural gas, and you take oil out of production. Then you tell them that, and they say, we're producing more than ever before. Well, which is it? Are you climate change fanatics or are you capitalists? They want it both ways. And so you're struggling. I'm just telling you, there was a lady today, I was at the diner I love here in Florida. I don't know her. I had to guess she's about my age, maybe a little younger, a little older. And so I got an egg salad sandwich because this place has the best egg salad sandwiches. I don't know why. I think it's because they don't load it up with mayonnaise. A little mayonnaise is all right. Too much mayonnaise, I can't stand it. It's called egg salad, not a mayonnaise sandwich, Mr. Producer. The egg salad sandwich with potato chips and a soda, or a pop, as some people say in Illinois, was $15.95. I'm thinking to myself, how do people buy this? They don't. It's Florida in summertime. And I think there were about 6 or 7 people in the whole restaurant. I'm thinking, how does she make ends meet, this woman? So I gave her a very nice tip on the way. She said, Mister, I said, yes. I can't thank you enough. Now, that's not enough money, the tip, to live off of. It's not enough money to pay the monthly grocery bill, or the utility bill, or the gas bill. And I thought to myself, this is the kind of woman, these are the kind of people the politicians in Washington claim to represent and do not know and do not meet. This waitress. There's tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of people like this, many of you. I'll be right back.
Mark Levin.
Did you know one of the largest U.S. flags in the state of Georgia stands proudly in Pure Talk's parking lot? To honor that flag, Pure Talk is supporting America's Warrior Partnership in their mission to prevent veteran suicide. For our servicemen and women, the transition to civilian life can be very difficult, especially now. Access to housing, employment, and even their earned VA benefits can be very difficult. That's where America Warriors Partnership steps in by providing real support where and when our vets need it most. And you can help this noble cause when you switch to Pure Talk's 5G service and support this great charity. Through Flag Day, they'll match every dollar donated up to $50,000. Choose a wireless company that shares your values and puts you on America's most dependable 5G network for just $20 a month. Go to puretalk.com/Levin. That's puretalk.com/LEVIN to make the switch. That's puretalk.com/Levin for superior cell phone service. That's half the price of Verizon, AT&T, or T-Mobile, and to help Pure Talk with vets in need. Al Sharpton's in on the debate, and why not? He's on the morning schmo. They have no standards. And so what does he say, Al Sharpton? Cut one, go.
But let me say this, the absurdity of this whole thing of whether he is on a drug or whether he was given drugs. I think Joe and I may be the only ones in the building that ever really were in debates. I ran for president. Joe was elected and reelected to Congress. The last thing someone needs in a debate is a drug, because you may get hyped up. You may forget something. Somebody can easily provoke you.
All right, pay attention. Al. He has to be drugged up. Otherwise, he can't perform on stage. And if he's not drugged up, all he has to do is agree to a drug test with Trump. That's all he has to do. Now, am I supposed to believe Al Sharpton and Joe Scarborough, or the four medical professionals who I consulted with, who I trust completely, who said there's no question that he's been being drugged up? None. With amphetamines of some kind or other possible drugs. And they're legal. But it'll be all hyped up. That's the point. He's not hyped up to the point, where he's out of control. He's hyped up to the point where he might speak a little faster, think a little faster. But it creates a chemical reaction that causes his synapses to snap. It causes his system to pop, to put it in a pedestrian phrase, way out of his normal conduct and production. That's the reason for these drugs. Other people take these drugs for other medical reasons. That's why they exist. But this is what you call a dual-use drug. So you can, in fact, use this in a short period of time. If you are in this kind of mental state, you're not fully at stage 7 of dementia, or on the other side of the mountain when it comes to Alzheimer's, which are horrible, horrible, horrible things. So you can be pumped up. He will be pumped up. And I'm telling you, that's why he won't take a drug test. I'll be right back.
He's here. Now, broadcasting from the underground command post, deep in the bowels of a hidden bunker, somewhere under the brick and steel of a nondescript building, we've once again made contact with our leader, Mark Levin.
Hello, America. Mark Levin here. Our number, 877-381-3811, 877-381-3811. I'm starting to think, Mr. Producer, I'm the most feared person on radio, and I don't know why. This guy, Charlemagne the God, is everywhere. He was promoting a book. Did they contact us? No. Bill Maher is everywhere promoting a book. Did they contact us? No. By the way, I'm thankful they didn't. There's too many authors. But that said, isn't that interesting? And we can go through a long list. They don't want to be questioned by me. And yet there are people I disagree with who I have on the program, if not a lot, because they don't want to come on. Some of them are dear friends. Stephen A. Smith is a dear friend of mine. Now, we agree on a lot, but we don't agree on everything. That's obvious. It's a good guy. He means well. Smart as hell. He kind of has his lane. I kind of have my lane, but every now and then we overlap. I'm curious about sports, a lot of it. He's curious about politics and governance. He's very interested in expanding his knowledge base, his areas of interest, and he works on it. This guy is a hard worker. He's a hard worker. You cannot have a brain that digests and then provides the kind of data and analysis on sports if you're a dumb guy. You just can't. It may not be an area that interests everybody, a particular sport or sports generally, but it interests a hell of a lot of people, including me. And I'm just saying, that's a lot of information to process. Multiple sports activities going on at the same time within a league, multiple leagues. I mean, you got overlap taking place one league and the other. And I mean, when I talk to Stephen A. on air here, you hear it's like the Rain Man. Boom, 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 boom. I go, whoa. My point is, I don't know why these guys are so afraid of me. Not him, obviously, but others. It's weird. Matthew Dowd is a guy, he's a hemorrhoidic, as you know, a human hemorrhoid, a hemorrhoidic. He has been a hemorrhoidic in Washington, D.C. a very, very long time. And that's why they always bring him on MSLSD. He calls himself a political analyst, a.k.a. analyst. No, he's more a political analyst. Like I said, he's a hemorrhoidic. Let's listen to this genius. Cut 3, go.
The fact of the matter is Joe Biden has done more for Donald Trump supporters than Donald Trump ever did for his in their what their how they live at home, their finances, every single the protection of Medicare, protection of Social Security.
What the hell are you talking about, moron? I've done this here and elsewhere. Joe Biden has given 3 major speeches on the floor of the Senate during his notorious Senate career, such as it was, in which he's demanded that cuts be made in Social Security and Medicare. Now, they do need to be reformed. I've argued for that for 10 years, where they won't exist. But Joe Biden's hammered them hard. Trump has never, ever. He hasn't. And so here you have this hemorrhoidic, Matthew Dowd, lying. He's done more for your finances, America, Biden, than Trump ever has. He's done more so you can afford a home than Trump ever has. So I'll ask the Reagan question, America, are you better off today than you were 4 years ago? How about 5 years ago, 6 years ago, 7 years ago? You better off today? Is the country better off? Are our streets safer? Our border more secure? Your paycheck going further or not? And that's the bottom line. Debate or no debate? These hemorrhoidics from Washington or not? That's the bottom line. Then they drag out Nancy Pelosi. Nancy Pelosi. She's frightening these days, isn't she, Mr. Producer? I mean, her face is shrinking in. It almost reminds me of, what is that movie with the Ark? Remember that movie? They open the Ark. Don't you watch movies? You don't watch movies either? Oh, my God. Well, there's the Nazis, and they're surrounding the Ark, or whatever they call it. Raiders of the Lost Ark, yes. And then, remember what happens to their faces and everything? They melt. Well, not as dramatic, but it looks to me like Nancy Pelosi's face is melting. And I suspect that's from years of facelifts. I'm just saying. You tighten the skin, you tighten the skin, you tighten the skin is my understanding. You kind of sew it to the back of the skull. I don't know what you do. But it's unraveling. Sort of like John Kerry. John Kerry appears to me to have either mashed potatoes or applesauce that was implanted into his forehead. And it's now kind of leaching down around his eyes and into his cheeks. And you go, whoa, 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 what's going on with this guy? He's starting to look like one of those dogs where the skin on the side of the jaws are hanging down. I don't know the names of those dogs. You know what I mean, Rich? Who would? We should call them Kerrys. But nonetheless, his face is all contorted now. And then Joe Biden. Joe Biden's had a face job. And when he does that squint, which people in his condition do, unfortunately. But when he does the squint with the eyes, you can see it around the eyes. You can see the tension on the skin. It's not normal. A lot of politicians do this. A lot of people in Hollywood do this. A lot of liberals do this. It's the truth. Where was I? Oh, Nancy Pelosi on CNN yesterday. Plus, she's sounding more and more like Biden, and they both sound more and more like Professor Erwin Kirby. Remember him? Cut 4, go.
Some polls have shown President Biden lagging his previous levels of support with key parts of the Democratic base, young people, African-American voters, Latin voters, women.
Yeah.
What do you, does that concern you? Does that keep you up at night?
Well, I saw a poll today that said among young people 18 to 30 that Biden was ahead by 23 points, that people did care about a woman's right to choose, LGBTQ and minority issues. They cared about the planet and the rest. So, again...
Wait a minute. They care about the planet? Do you care about the planet, Mr. Producer? Don't we right-wingers hate the planet? That's right. The vast majority of the American people are thinking about LGBTQ issues. Did you know this? And a woman's right to choose. I'll say for the 4 billionth time since the Dobbs decision, abortions are way up in this country, over 1 million last year. Over 1 million, okay? Up since the Dobbs decision. But that won't matter to anybody. Go ahead.
We organized to get out that vote. As you know, I came up through the ranks as a grassroots political organizer, which said we just have to own the ground in order to win.
That must have been tough, being a political organizer for the Democrat Party in San Francisco, Mr. Producer. We went door to door, man. I'll tell you what, it was tough. All these Democrats, it's like 9 out of 10 doors you knock on. She really worked hard. No, what happened was she was part of the political machine in the state of California, and its power base was San Francisco. She latched onto it. That's what happened. And they've become enormously wealthy as a result of it. Go ahead.
That mobilization requires a message that is inspiring. And I'm so proud of Joe Biden. And by the way, I have a nose for good campaigns. And I am so encouraged by what I smell and see around the country.
I'll tell you what I smell and see. No, I better not. But that said, look how the Democrats lie. They can't even get their lie right in this respect. Obama and Hillary Clinton know that Biden is sinking and sinking fast. Through their surrogates, they're going public in the media. And they are ingratiating themselves with the base by showing the Democrats how much the two of them working together are going to save Biden or try to save him if they can. Meaning the Biden campaign is a mess. Okay. There's Nancy Pelosi. She didn't get the message. I'm impressed. I have a nose for this stuff. Not like Hunter Biden, but I have a nose for this stuff. I'm encouraged by what I smell and what I see. Well, she's encouraged by what she smells. Most of us are not. I'll be right back.
Mark Levin.
So, of course, the Democrats, their explanation for all things is to attack the people. You. Van Jones, a Maoist, remember him? Was a Maoist. He had to resign from the Obama regime. But that's perfect for a resume enhancer for CNN. Cut 5, go.
Part of the thing is we're living in the United States of amnesia. People really just don't remember how awful and terrible the Trump days were. I mean, there was a reason that he got voted out. And so now there's this weird kind of nostalgia for the Trump days, which if you look back at any of the headlines or any of what was going on, nobody was happy during that period of time. It was a complete upset all the time.
No, it wasn't. It was people like you on the hard left and the Democrats and your ilk who wouldn't get off the man's back from the moment he announced and came down that escalator. 2 impeachments, criminal investigation, endless attacks on his family, endless lies about Russia collusion. This is just grotesque. It is you people on the left who create tumult and turmoil, anarchy. Look at the border. Look what Biden's doing throughout the United States and all over the world. I don't ever remember this country being turned inside out like this. Certainly not in the last 60-some years since the 1960s riots. But it's even worse in many respects. Because this isn't about civil rights. This is about the survival of the nation. The border's wide open. The middle class is being destroyed with the economic policies. I mean, we can go on and on. But this is Van Jones. You see, it's the United States of amnesia. If you would only agree with the radical leftist, self-appointed elitist, then you would understand America. Then there's John Favreau. I don't know, F-A-V-R-E-A-U, former speechwriter for Obama. All the Obamanoids are starting to show up, have you noticed, including the big Obamanoid. And they're bringing them on the Morning Schmo show, because he does a conga line of this stuff. It would amaze me if one of these hosts could just do like an hour without a guest. They're incapable of it. They can't do it. I say to her, I do 3 hours every day, usually without a guest. And if we have a guest, it's because it's important. But they have guests, same guests, over and over again. But here's John Favreau, or whatever, former speechwriter for Obama. Again, attacking voters, this time attacking black voters, as well as other voters. Cut 6, go.
I think where he's struggling is among younger voters, black voters, Latino voters, white voters, people who just aren't paying as close attention to politics, who aren't tuned in. And one of the reasons they're not tuned in is because they're cynical about politics and they're frustrated about politics. And the way to turn that around, I mean, this is what the whole campaign's about. This is why they're going to spend all that money and they have so many staff in so many battleground states, because this is going to be a race about making or trying to get people's attention as best you can and try to force the choice in the election.
So the problem is the American people are not paying attention. Now, Biden is trying to draw attention by talking about democracy will die unless he's elected and can stop Trump. 1988, when he was running for president, he had to pull out of the race because he was caught lying about his school record, lying about his plagiarism, lying about stealing speech material from Neil Kinnock, then the Labour leader in Britain. And he's just a disgusting, pathological liar, and he had to step out. The media, back then at least, reported all this and were very disturbed by it. Media today have no problem with the guy walking into walls. That's okay. But they're going to try and scare people, and that's the bottom line. Lie and scare. Or let me put it this way, fearmonger and lie. Fearmonger and lie, fearmonger and lie. But Andrea Mitchell has her head screwed on tight, I think, Mr. Producer, don't you? Oh, she's got it down. She knows the focus. Here's the problem. I'm just showing you how out of touch these people are. Cut 7, go.
And one other, quick thing is that there is a profile in the New York Times today of the 3 closest advisors, longest serving advisors, informal and formal advisors to the president. And they're all white men in their 60s or higher. Former Senator Ted Kaufman, 85 years old. So is that too insular?
So let's stop a minute. See how weird this whole thing is? He's got 3 white men, old white men advising him. Isn't that part of the problem? It's so insular. What does Adrian Elrod have to say about that? Go.
I know them very well. These are loyal, dedicated public servants who have a lot of experience.
Excuse me. They're old white men. Didn't you hear? I don't care what they are substantively, who they are substantively. Experience is irrelevant. They're old white men. How do you answer that? Adrian, go.
Part of the team that really helped get some of these major economic policies in place under President Biden.
Hello. 3 old white men advising a very old, transparently white man. You're not answering the question, Adrian Elrod, if that is your name. Go ahead.
I mean, in the White House, they're longtime allies of the president's. Of course, they should be there in debate prep.
So you're defending the fact that Biden's a white supremacist, isn't she, Mr. Producer? That's right. 3 old white men. When he came into the Senate, he embraced 5 old white men. All of them were racist segregationists from the South. Is Joe Biden the same man? Joe Biden's never changed, ladies and gentlemen. I'll be right back.
In a world of pathetic liberal potholes, he's a truck full of hot constitutional asphalt. Mark Levin. Call him now at 877-381-3811.
Thank me very much. Kelly and Jean-Pierre on the Morning Schmo Show, and of course she wasn't challenged with her lies. Did you know grocery prices are down under Joe Biden? Cut 9, go.
So yes, eggs and milk, and there were grocery things that were up. It has gone down. It has gone down since 2022. Gas prices, because of the actions that this president took, and let's not forget there was an invasion, but Russia did obviously into Ukraine that caused gas prices to tick up. The president took action, tapped the SPR, and we saw gas prices go down. The president has met the moment with every issue that we have had in front of us.
That's enough. They're not paying her enough to destroy her reputation. E.J. Antoni of the Heritage Foundation, just a couple weeks ago, Biden pretends rising food prices are not a problem. President Biden was just told that food prices are up over 30% on his watch. Got that? Over 30%. But he dismissed this fact, claiming people have money to pay those elevated prices. The drop in purchasing power has many families relying on credit cards to make ends meet, pushing outstanding balances to $1.1 trillion, a historic record. Americans' incomes haven't risen nearly as quickly as food prices during the Biden regime, resulting from failed public policy. And so she's regurgitating what he is. According to the Bureau of Labor Statistics, average weekly paychecks have increased only $150 under Biden, or 14.1% in roughly 3 years. Normally that would be cause for celebration, but not in an inflationary environment of Bidenomics, because prices have risen on average 19.3% during his tenure. The average real or inflation-adjusted weekly paycheck has shrunk by about $50 or 4.4%. Today's larger paychecks buy less. This is stagflation, as I keep explaining. And consumers are being squeezed by higher prices everywhere. The drop in purchasing power has many families relying on credit cards to make ends meet. interest rates on that debt is at a record high. And contrary to Biden's claims, doesn't sound like Americans have the money to pay 30% more for food. And look, some basic food products are up 100, 120, 200%. As Americans put more necessities on their credit cards, finance charges alone have exploded to over $200 billion a year. If people can't afford rent and food, they certainly can't afford mounting interest costs. Now, those higher interest costs can also be seen on mortgages, student loans, car loans. Between these higher finance charges and the lost buying power from declining real earnings, a typical American family has lost, ready? $8,100 of their annual income compared with when Mr. Biden took office. You feel the pinch. They're trying to talk you out of it. And those higher interest costs are seen on mortgages, student loans, car loans. Between these higher finance charges and the lost buying power from declining real earnings, stagflation. A typical American family lost $8,100 on their annual income under Biden. Under Biden. This hits lower-income families particularly hard because consumers shift their buying habits when inflation is high to save money. As middle and even upper-income shoppers buy lower-priced items from their grocer to save money, there's a surge in demand for foodstuffs that were disproportionately bought by lower-income households. In other words, now there's more buyers for the lower-priced goods. Eggs are just one example of this phenomenon. They've historically been a relatively inexpensive source of protein, vitamin D, and other nutrients. As more Americans swap purchases of things like beef with eggs to save money to get your protein, the higher demand for eggs has pushed prices up much faster than the average inflation rate for food. That's a key reason why egg prices are up 41% under Bidenomics. Eggs aren't the only things at the grocery store that will induce sticker shock. I'm going through all this because look how they just lie. Now, you know this, but they just lie. Prices of other consumer staples such as flour, sugar, butter have skyrocketed in price under Biden's tenure, increasing 38.3%, 30.7%, 35.9%, respectively. But Americans' incomes haven't risen nearly as quickly as food prices have during the Biden administration, resulting from failed public policy, spending and borrowing trillions of dollars we didn't have, manipulating interest rates and printing money to try and pay it all has crushed American consumers under an elephantine cost of living and burgeoning debt. That's what's going on. That's what's going on. It's a disaster. And even Janet Yellen now, adding to the lies. Cut 10, Mr. Producer, go.
What impact would Donald Trump have on our economy if he's elected?
Well, look, I'm governed by the Hatch Act, and I can't get into electoral politics. I guess I could just make a couple of policy-oriented comments, which is that the signature policy from the Trump years was the Tax Cut and Jobs Act, and it promised an investment boom, which really did not materialize. It gave huge tax breaks to corporations.
All right, let's stop. It gave huge tax breaks to everybody across the board, corporations the least. And the economy exploded in terms of growth until the pandemic. In the last months of, really about the last year of the Trump presidency, the economy was picking up. It was starting to grow again. Biden comes in, and he overloads it with cash. That's what you're suffering from right now. Why is that? Well, think about that this way. If you go to a grocery store and it has an overabundance of a particular product, they have to reduce the price to sell it. Well, that's how the market works with currency. If there's too much currency that's created and it's not based on gold or silver, there's no standard. then you've got all these dollars chasing the limited number of goods. You create inflation. You create market dislocations. So people aren't responding to an actual market system, they're responding to government. There's a reason why the stock market is all stoked up and pumped up. She talks about corporations. Major corporations are doing great under Biden. It's small businesses that are suffering, restaurants that are suffering, hardware stores that are suffering, mechanics, and I can go on and on and on, who are suffering. The big boys are doing great under Biden. A lot of them are supporting Biden. But the point is, the middle class is suffering under Biden. You can't have food going up 30%, and particular kinds of food like eggs going up over 40%, and flour and sugar and butter going up 30, 35, 39%. These are basic things that people need. I haven't even gotten to bread and milk and all the rest of it. This affects households across America, regardless of who you are. And if you're earning a minimum wage, the answer isn't to artificially increase it so you destroy small businesses or franchisers. The answer is the government needs to stop creating stagflation. It won't work. Didn't work in post-World War I Germany. Didn't work in Zimbabwe. Doesn't work anywhere in the world. People suffer because the money's not worth anything, and people go back to bartering. They go back to bartering. Look, I'm not telling you anything you don't know. You're living it. When's the last time you took a vacation? When's the last time you went to Disney World? It's been a long time for us, very long. But I'm told people are literally going into debt on their credit cards to take their kids to Disney for 4 or 5 days. That a park pass is so expensive, the food's so expensive, and on it goes. I'm not even singling out Disney. This could be anywhere. Universal, it could be a local amusement park. It's not because everybody's out to screw you. It's because everybody has to cover their costs. And under inflation, personnel costs go up. Material costs go up. Food costs go up. Utility costs go up. Everything goes up. Except the value of your dollar, which goes down. This is what Trump was warning against. He said inflation is a country killer. Regardless of their best efforts, Biden did this, and his proposed budget proposes trillions more. And what did we get for this? 7 electric vehicle charging stations for $7 billion? Internet for the poor and for people who don't have it? $42.5 billion. Not one house has been hooked up. What kind of record is this? He'll talk about, I have this internet legislation that'll hook up, but they don't. It hasn't hooked up anybody. Anybody. Look at the cost of automobiles, artificially high because he demands that everybody drive an electric vehicle. And the people who demand it don't drive electric vehicles. They absolutely don't. News people aren't driving electric vehicles. I mean, a few of them, but most of them are not. Most members of Congress aren't driving electric vehicles. Some are, most aren't. Most members of the Biden administration aren't. John Kerry relies on the combustion engine for almost all things. You can't take natural gas out of production or the pipelines for delivering it and do anything but drive up the cost of gas. And you can't claim on the one hand that you brought down the price of gasoline, while on the other hand, you're trying to drive the price so high that people can't afford it. I'll be right back.
Mark Levin.
The Democrats are obsessed with abortion. They don't want it to be rare, like they used to say. They want it to be ubiquitous. Abortions in this country are way up since the Dobbs decision. Can you pass that around, people? Can you tell as many people as you know? If you want to find the source, go on any of my platforms. I posted it up there. I think it was last evening. It's a radical left-wing pro-abort organization. They say, despite all the obstacles, despite, abortion is up significantly since the last time we went through all the data. And it's up significantly since the Dobbs decision. So what is it that the Democrats want? An abortion clinic next to a 7-Eleven on every corner, Mr. Producer? Is that what they want? An abortion clinic next to a Starbucks on every corner? What do they want? We salute our armed forces, police officers, firefighters, emergency personnel, our truckers, our brothers and sisters in Ukraine, our brothers and sisters in Israel. We have your back, even though Biden is kneecapping you. And you, the American people, God bless you. Thank you. I'll see you tomorrow.